The story begins by showing the protagonist playing an otome game. From his expression, it was easy to tell that he was irritated with everything around him, especially the game itself. According to him, that type of game favored women far too much. Shortly afterward, it became clear that he was only going through all of this because his sister had forced him to play. Almost all the women in that world were strong, had difficult personalities, and were surrounded by countless suitors. Because of that, he deeply hated that world. Even so, he kept progressing through stage after stage until he finally completed the game. After spending several days playing without eating properly, he decided to go out to buy something at a convenience store. However, on the way, he fell down the stairs, and before he could even understand what had happened, he woke up in another world. While talking to someone, he began to notice that the scenery seemed familiar. After looking at an emblem, he became certain of the truth. The place where he was the very world of the game he hated so much. That was how he was reincarnated as Leon Bartford inside the otome game. 10 years had already passed since his reincarnation. Lost in thought, Leon realized that he was nothing more than an insignificant character in that story. He had written down everything he could remember about the game, but after living for so long on that floating island, all the ambition he once had completely disappeared. That was what he believed until the moment they arranged a 50-year-old fiancée for him. She had already been married 7 times, and all of her former husbands had died in battle. To make matters even worse, he was also prevented from attending the academy. Without being able to study, Leon knew that no one intended to spend money on him. Lady Zola insisted that he accept the marriage. Leon quickly concluded that she simply wanted to see him die in battle. If he refused the proposal, he would be forced into a military career. Faced with this situation, he began desperately thinking of a way out, because if he did not act at that very moment, his life would be ruined. Then we see Leon setting out on a journey to find something whose existence was known only to him and the game's protagonist. Along the way, he defeated a queen carp, a creature considered an excellent source of experience. While checking his location, he suddenly noticed that the compass had started spinning uncontrollably. That was the sign that he had found what he had been searching for. Even while facing a dangerous route filled with turbulence, he managed to pass through a transportation device and arrived at the ruins of an ancient international research institute. Right at the entrance, he encountered a security robot. Just like in the game, Leon managed to defeat it by using magical projectiles charged with electricity. At that moment, it finally sank in that he had truly been reincarnated into the world of the otome game. Continuing forward, he found an old spaceship. It was an item that he had purchased in the game. By using the ID badge of a deceased employee, he managed to gain access to the ship. Inside, he ended up encountering another security robot, which immediately identified him as an intruder. Leon struggled because the enemy was powerful, and nothing he tried seemed to work. In the end, he was captured. According to the robot, the ancient civilization had been destroyed by the new society that ruled through magic. Even so, eliminating this new generation remained one of its highest programming priorities. However, Leon seized an opportunity and used a knife capable of launching its own blade, successfully destroying the robot. The main ship refused to be controlled by the new civilization. However, the moment Leon placed his hand on a biometric device, he was recognized as the ship's new master. Shortly afterward, the ship's intelligence revealed that although Leon belonged to the new generation, he possessed characteristics similar to those of ancient humanity, something surrounded by mystery. After that, Leon decided to name the ship's operating system Luxion. He was completely exhausted after fighting the robot, so weak that he even imagined he would die once again. Zala was mocking Leon's father. To her, not only had Leon ruined the arranged marriage, but he had also gone off on an adventure only to die along the way. Even though he had not received any news from Leon for 3 months, Leon's father continued to believe that his son was still alive. Suddenly, everyone heard the sound of a ship approaching. It was Leon returning while piloting a vessel loaded with riches. Thanks to that, he was able to refuse without difficulty the marriage that Zala had arranged for him. On an uninhabited island, Luxion commented that Leon seemed to be in a very good mood. Leon confirmed that he was, because just remembering Zola's expression was enough to satisfy him. Besides that, he was now an independent knight and had even been lucky enough to find, on the way back, a deserted island that was perfect for a baron. In his mind, all that was left was to find a wife at the academy, and then he could live peacefully as a simple countryside noble. The scene changes to Leon learning from his father that he had officially received the title of baron. Most likely, this happened because he had explored a dungeon and discovered a floating island. Leon was shocked because he had chosen the baron class only as a joke. However, according to his father, now that he had become a baron, he would be required to find a wife of high social standing at the academy, someone on Zola's level. That left Leon completely discouraged. Upon arriving at the academy, Leon commented to himself that he would spend the next 3 years looking for a future wife while studying etiquette and noble customs. He had finally reached the point where the game's story truly began. When he saw the game's main characters, he remembered all the unpleasant moments he had gone through because of them. Even so, he wished them all good luck in their noble lives, since his intention was to remain nothing more than a supporting character and live in peace. While walking around the academy, he witnessed an unexpected event. Leon remembered that, in that scene, the game's protagonist was supposed to be there, not that unfamiliar girl. For some reason, he felt that he had seen that girl somewhere before. Even so, he put the thought aside because he needed to prepare for the tea party. He then asked his friends Daniel and Raymond if there were any other girls like them, coming from families without wealth. The two replied that there were not. Right nearby, the prince's group was attracting the attention of practically every girl. They all wanted to take part in the tea party hosted by them. The prince's fiancée appeared wanting to talk about the event, but the prince was not intimidated in the slightest and invited Marie to join the tea party. His fiancée clearly did not like that attitude. Leon watched everything without understanding anything, because that was a mandatory event in the game, except it was supposed to involve the original protagonist, not that girl. During etiquette class, whose topic was the tea party itself, the teacher noticed that Leon was not paying attention, so he called him up for a practical activity, so that he could learn to appreciate female companionship through his own tea party. Leon showed no enthusiasm, believing it was just another pointless event created to please girls. However, after returning from the practical lesson, the protagonist had already changed, thinking that one day he would like to organize tea parties as perfect as his master's. Then Leon prepared everything to make his own tea party incredible. He even invited the daughter of a baron. However, she showed up accompanied by her friends and had only come to sabotage the sweets served there. They ate everything, treated Leon as if he were a butler, and then left, since they had only stopped by because they had free time before going to another party. Leon realized that they were also bullying the game's true protagonist simply because she was a commoner. Even though he did not want to get involved in the original story, he ended up doing so by inviting Olivia to his tea party. Leon was happy when Olivia praised the sweets and tea he had prepared. Taking advantage of the moment, he asked if people always treated her that way. Olivia replied that nothing she did ever worked out, and that she was not even sure whether a commoner like her should be attending that academy. Leon immediately said that, of course, she could study there. Then he said that he knew someone who could help her. The two went to speak with Leon's sister. She advised Olivia to talk to the most important girl in the class. She also said she would bring some sweets that Leon had paid for, since they were expensive products. After managing to speak with Olivia in private, Angelica gladly accepted the sweets and commented that she did not like acting like a cruel person. She then assured Olivia that there was absolutely no problem with her attending the academy. When she discovered that Leon had recommended the girl, she began to see him as an interesting person, since he had earned a barony through his own merit. Angelica also stated that many people would try to take advantage of him because of his competence. During exploration class, the teacher explained that the students needed to descend to the 3rd floor to collect crystals. During the activity, Leon witnessed yet another scene of Marie pretending to be a victim so that the prince would side with her instead of supporting his fiancée, Angelica. Women might have held more power in that world, but those young men were clearly exceptions. When Leon arrived on the 3rd floor, Olivia was happy that she had finally managed to extract crystals. Everything was going well until monsters appeared in an ambush. Leon demonstrated his skill with the sword and impressed Olivia by fighting with great talent. However, while trying to protect her, he ended up being bitten by a creature, leaving his arm useless. It was at that moment that the prince's group appeared to help. They quickly defeated all the monsters. The prince suffered only a scratch on his arm and was soon healed by Marie, revealing that she possessed healing magic. The prince's fiancée ran over to help him, but in the process she ended up pushing Marie. The prince became irritated by that action and walked away while holding Marie's hand. Around them, everyone commented that they felt sorry for the prince's fiancée. Olivia also healed Leon's arm and said that magic was the only thing she truly excelled at. Leon kept trying to understand what was happening, because the story was unfolding very differently from the game. The next day, the prince went to speak with Angelica about the fact that Marie's notebook and bag had been burned. He asked if she knew anything about it. Angelica replied that she knew nothing. Even so, the prince claimed that the girls who had been there said that she had ordered it. Even after hearing her denial, he refused to believe her and even told her to stay away from them. In Leon's room, Daniel and Raymond explained that two wealthy young men had officially become engaged to Millie and Jessica, who were precisely the only girls who treated the two of them kindly. According to them, only girls with terrible personalities were left now. They also commented that Prince Julius was trying to solve the bullying problem Marie had been suffering, and that the central figure behind it all seemed to be Angelica. Leon then remembered that there really was an event in the game where Julius became furious with Angelica, but that was supposed to happen much later in the story. Then Leon decided to ask Olivia about Marie. However, Olivia misunderstood him and, in a somewhat sad tone, asked if he liked girls like Marie. Leon immediately replied that he hated her. Olivia then explained that she had once tried to talk to Marie, but Marie had completely changed her attitude and said that she hated girls like Olivia. At that moment, the two of them heard a strange noise and went to investigate. When they reached the hallway, they found Marie kissing one of the young men from the prince's group. As she continued walking through the corridors, Marie commented to herself that this world was quite interesting. Shortly afterward, Prince Julius and Jilk appeared, offering to buy her a servant. In her thoughts, Marie considered herself very lucky because she would now have a handsome demi-human slave. She also told herself that she would make the most of that otome game world, especially because women there could freely spend time with their lovers. Angelica was consumed with rage by the situation. She could not understand how the prince had fallen in love with that girl. Since childhood, she had been raised to serve Julius and had spent her entire life thinking about him. Because of that, she could not understand why everything was happening this way. Leon's sister went to his room to warn him that he should not get involved in the bullying case. According to her, sooner or later the prince would ascend to the throne, and Leon would have a comfortable life if he stayed close to Julius. On the other hand, if he opposed him, his life could be ruined. After Jenna left, Leon asked Luxian to investigate Marie and Angelica. During a party that same night, Leon and his friends decided to try to find girlfriends. In the end, they failed completely and were even humiliated. Shortly afterward, Olivia came running over and called for Leon, saying it was an emergency. The problem was that Angelica had gone to speak with Julius about Marie becoming involved not only with him but also with his friends. However, they all already knew about it and accepted the situation because they claimed to love Marie. In practice, Julius was breaking off his engagement to Angelica. Furious, Angelica challenged Marie to a duel. Julius ordered Marie to accept, saying that he and his friends would fight as her champions. Angelica was practically abandoned, since no one wanted to face Prince Julius. Leon then remembered that, in the game's original story, after losing that duel, Angelica left the academy, married an unbearable feudal lord from the countryside, and went on to live a miserable life. Even though he was not close to her, for some reason he felt bad when he remembered that. So he stepped forward and offered to be Angelica's champion. Some time earlier, Leon had already asked Luxian to investigate Marie, and there was no doubt that, just like him, she had also come from outside that otome world. The rules of the duel were decided. If Leon won, Marie would have to stay away from Prince Julius. If he lost, Angelica would never again interfere in Julius's affairs. The battle would be an armored duel in the arena, where Leon would have to fight 5 consecutive one-on-one battles. Later, Marie was furious, complaining that that background character was ruining all of her plans. Meanwhile, Leon discovered that Daniel and Raymond had been forced to vandalize his room. He also learned that the students were already betting money on the outcome of the fight. Faced with that, he asked Lakshan to obtain 500 white gold coins. In the next scene, Angelica told him that he should give up. According to her, there was no reason to risk his life for her sake. Even so, Leon remained confident that he would emerge victorious. At last, the day of the long-awaited duel arrived. Angelica began to worry when she noticed that Leon was not wearing any armor. However, Lakshan informed him that Arrogance was on its way. As soon as the armor arrived, everyone began laughing because of that machine's outdated appearance. The first opponent was Brad, who mocked Leon for using obsolete armor. He also boasted about carrying a spear capable of increasing magical conductivity. Leon asked Lakshan for blade number 1 that was in the backpack, but was surprised to receive a shovel instead of the weapon. Lakshan explained that when Leon had taken a driving test, he had used the shovel to dig holes and forgotten to put the sword back. The referee gave the signal, and the fight began. Even while holding nothing but a shovel, Leon defeated Brad without difficulty, striking him on the head with a single blow. Leon could not understand how that alone had been enough to win. Lakshan then explained that if he had struck with full force, Brad would have died. In the stands, everyone was shocked by the outcome. The only one applauding him was his Tea Party master. The second opponent was Greg, who actually showed a certain amount of skill. Even so, he ended up being beaten badly and had his armor destroyed. Still unwilling to accept defeat, Greg continued fighting without armor, only to be humiliated by Leon until the referee ended the match. The third opponent was Chris, a young master swordsman. The battle ended quickly. After having his sword broken, Chris himself admitted defeat and was humiliated in the end. During the break before the 4th round, Lakshan informed Leon that Jenna had planted explosives inside Arrogance, but that everything had been ordered by his next opponent. Those explosives would have killed the pilot of an ordinary suit of armor, but they posed no danger whatsoever to Leon. Then the 4th fight began, and the opponent was Jilk. He started the battle by using a smoke grenade and shortly afterward activated the hidden explosives. Unfortunately for him, none of it worked. After threatening Leon's family, he was defeated with a single blow. Marie became frustrated and wondered how someone that strong could even exist. The prince tried to calm her down, saying that his armor had been built using the kingdom's finest technology. At that moment, Marie remembered that those young men had been weak in the game and always lost battles. That was why she had made her brother complete the game for her. Then came the 5th and final battle against Prince Julius. He was surprised because he had not believed Leon would make it to his round. During the fight, Leon tried to convince him that Angelica truly loved him. Julius replied that she had never understood his feelings. He also said that Angelica was just like all the women in the palace, while Marie had been the only one to notice who he truly was. Leon then began acting like a villain, trying to make the prince realize that he was being manipulated. Even so, Julius still failed to understand. Angelica, who had heard the entire conversation, began to cry and stated that he really must love that girl. Even Olivia tried to make him realize that Angelica truly loved him. But Julius declared that a woman who saw him only as a prince could never have sincere feelings for him. Irritated, Leon made one last attempt. He warned that if Julius turned Angelica into an enemy, he could even lose his right to the throne. Julius replied that he did not need status or honor. All he wanted was Marie. After hearing that, Leon gave up trying to convince him and unleashed a technique called Impact, completely destroying Prince Julius's armor. He went over to Angelica and told her that she did not need to worry because the prince was only unconscious. Olivia, on the other hand, looked concerned, since Leon had been far too harsh on the prince and his friends, and now practically everyone was angry with him. Even so, Leon told her that she did not need to think about it, because since he had taken on the role of the villain in front of everyone, he would most likely be expelled from the academy. A few hours later, Angelica tried to explain to Julius that everything she had done until then had always been for his sake. However, Julius did not believe a single word. According to him, Angelica did not even know his favorite food, a simple skewer made by commoners that he had tasted once when he had secretly gone into the city. Marie, on the other hand, had noticed it on the very first outing they had together. To Julius, that proved Angelica could never understand him, so he could not love her. Angelica listened to everything, understood his answer, and left the room, revealing that even from afar, she would continue wishing for his happiness. During a meeting with Angelica's father, Leon showed that he was willing to give up his titles, leave the academy, and even hand over part of his fortune to Lord Ritagrave if doing so would spare his life and prevent trouble for his family. Since Leon had been the only one to support his daughter, the Duke stated that he would do everything in his power to help him. He then also informed Leon that the engagement between Angelica and the prince had officially been cancelled. Even so, after everything that had happened, his daughter was emotionally devastated. For that reason, he asked Leon to take her to the countryside for a while so that she could rest and try to forget her troubles. After that conversation, Leon departed in his ship to return home, taking Angelica and Olivia with him. Zola, still furious over the chaos Leon had caused at the academy, asked who that insolent girl was. Angelica immediately put her in her place by revealing that she was the daughter of Duke Ritagrave. Shortly afterward, Leon took Angelica and Olivia to see his private island. There, the two took the opportunity to bathe in a hot spring. While relaxing, Angelica asked Olivia if she was dating Leon. Olivia replied that she thought it was impossible because the difference in their social standing was far too great. In her eyes, Leon was out of her reach. Furthermore, she believed that Leon had feelings for Angelica, the Duke's daughter. However, considered that idea impossible. Outside, Leon realized that Angelica was still saddened by everything that had happened and was even thinking about taking revenge on Marie. He then told her that such a thing was unnecessary and tried to cheer her up by saying that he knew the best way to get revenge. Angelica immediately became interested, and Leon revealed that the best revenge was simply to be happy. Meanwhile, Marie was bewildered. Her suitors were being disowned and losing their titles, while Julius was no longer the heir to the throne. The diplomat sent by the kingdom informed Leon that neither he nor his family would be held responsible for anything. On top of that, Leon would even be promoted. After all, he had been the knight who had reprimanded the prince's foolish behavior. Because of that, he would receive the rank of 6th class at the royal court. The fact that he had become a knight at the age of 16 was something never seen before in the Holfort kingdom, and the title had been granted by Julius's own parents. As a result, his expulsion from the academy was also cancelled. Back at the academy, the atmosphere was festive. Leon and his friends were setting up a cafe where Angelica and Olivia would work dressed as maids to serve the customers. Leon was happy to see the two getting along so well, and also because he appreciated the excellent view in front of him. Even so, he was outraged when he remembered that, according to the game's logic, he could not have any romantic relationship with either of them because he was only a supporting character. A short time later, his sister appeared asking for help. She had stolen her best friend's love interest and wanted Leon to solve the problem through threats. However, Olivia and Angelica helped him refuse that absurd request, and Jenna soon left. Daniel and Raymond then informed him that they had a new problem. Right next to their cafe, Prince Julius and his friends had also set up a cafe. Olivia was shocked when she discovered that they were charging 100 gias for nothing more than tea and sweets. Curious about those absurd prices, Leon went over to see it for himself. When he arrived, he realized that it looked more like a luxurious bar than a real cafe. Brad even turned the situation into a competition, declaring that this time they would not lose. Meanwhile, Olivia tried to promote Leon's group's cafe, but ended up being humiliated by other noble girls. In the end, however, a young woman named Carla showed interest. On the first day of the festival, Angelica was summoned by Queen Mylene, who wanted her company during the event to satisfy a few personal whims. The queen also revealed that she wanted to meet Leon, so the two of them headed to his cafe. However, when they arrived, They were shocked by the scene before them. Leon was being humiliated by the daughter of a viscount from a family that was a rival of the Ritagreves. Seeing that, Angelica immediately rushed over to help him, showing that actions were worth far more than words. Mylene tried to intervene, but ended up being called an old woman by the viscount's daughter, who had no idea that she was insulting the queen herself. To Leon, that was already reason enough to react. Taking advantage of the situation, he charged at all the servants accompanying the spoiled girl. Realizing that Leon was completely out of control and that not even the queen could stop him, Angelica decided to call her tea party master. As soon as he arrived, he resolved the entire commotion with ease. After everything had calmed down, Mylene apologized for her son's behavior. Since she had come from a neighboring country, she had never had the chance to attend the academy and wished for Leon to help her create some memories during the festival. Leon agreed and immediately stood up, asking the queen to marry him. Mylene became completely embarrassed, saying that she was already married, had a son, and on top of that was far too old. Leon replied that none of that mattered because she was beautiful and much better than many of the girls at the academy. Suddenly, Prince Julius appeared and smacked Leon on the head, irritated by his audacity in courting his own mother. The queen tried to defend Leon, explaining that it was not what Julius was imagining. Even so, in the end, Mylene left together with her son. A short while later, Carla Wayne appeared. She had asked Olivia to introduce her to Leon. As soon as she arrived, she knelt before him and begged him to save the Wayne family. Back in his room, Leon showed that he was willing to help the Wayne family. Even so, he decided to leave that matter for later and go bet on the races that were taking place during the festival. With Luxion's help, he managed to win a good amount of money. During one of the races, Jilk ended up being attacked by men connected to Claris. Although he won the race, he was injured and became unable to participate in the following rounds. It was then revealed that Miss Claris was actually Jilk's former fiancée, and was doing all of that for revenge. Marie sought out Leon and asked him to race in Jilk's place because if no one represented the first-year students, Miss Angelica would end up in trouble. As a member of the executive committee, it was her responsibility to find a substitute. For that reason, Leon agreed to take Jilk's place. Of course, before that, he asked Luxion to modify his motorcycle and also bet a large sum of money on himself. Dan came to speak with Leon and was furious. According to him, Claris had done so much for Jilk, yet he had ended their engagement through nothing more than a simple letter. Leon made it clear that he shared the same anger toward Jilk. Shortly afterward, the race began, and as expected, Leon became the target of Claris's men. On top of that, almost no one was cheering for him except his friends. Meanwhile, the Viscount's daughter was provoking conflicts between Angelica and Olivia. The situation became so bad that Olivia ran away from the scene. Angelica became furious and ended up arguing directly with the Viscount's daughter. Suddenly, Leon slowed down, making everyone believe that he had given up. However, at that very moment, he activated the nitro installed by Luxion and made an incredible comeback, overtaking all the competitors and taking first place. However, he pushed the motorcycle so hard that the machine could not withstand the strain and exploded right after his victory. Even so, Leon was saved by Dan, since the two of them shared the same hatred for handsome men. After that, Leon went to see Jilk, as it was time to collect the debt for the race he had won. However, instead of asking for money, he demanded that Jilk apologize to his former fiancée. As soon as Jilk left, the people present thanked Leon. They said that despite his somewhat twisted personality, he was a kind person. They then advised him to go talk to Livia and Angelica because the atmosphere between the two had become terrible after the race. In the next scene, Leon went to speak with Olivia. He comforted her, saying that even though they came from different worlds, she could still be friends with Miss Angelica. Later that night, Carla Wayne went to Olivia's room. Although she had asked Olivia to introduce her to Leon, Carla no longer wanted him to get involved with the Wayne family. Shortly afterward, the Viscount's daughter appeared, claiming that Olivia had no right to refuse. According to her, if Olivia refused to help, she would make everyone around her suffer. She also took the opportunity to humiliate her, saying cruel things, such as calling her Angelica's pet. The following day, Leon prepared to face the Sky Pirates at Carla Wayne's request. In reality, however, he also had his own reasons for going. The pirates possessed an item that was essential for the game's protagonist. Olivia needed to gather 3 sacred items to awaken her powers in the future. One of them was the sacred bracelet hidden in the palace dungeon. The second was the sacred necklace, which was precisely in the possession of the pirates mentioned by Carla. The last was the sacred staff kept by the kingdom's temple. In the original version of the game, the one behind Carla's request was the Viscount's daughter, and she had also been the one who hired the pirates. Leon then went to the ship that Luxian had prepared for the mission. Shortly afterward, Carla arrived accompanied by Olivia. Carla informed him that she had called more people to help fight the pirates, Brad and Greg. Meanwhile, Angelica bought a gift to give to Olivia. However, when she arrived at Olivia's room, she was shocked to see the door completely covered in graffiti. The Viscount's daughter appeared immediately afterward, speaking badly about Olivia once again. During the conversation, she accidentally let it slip that she was responsible for the pirate attack. Angelica responded with a calm threat, warning that if anything happened to Olivia, she would be finished. Leon was playing cards with Brad and Greg when Luxian informed him that 2 pirate ships were approaching. Leon immediately ordered Arrogance to be prepared. One of the pirates even warned the others to be careful with Carla because she was on their side. Even so, within just a few minutes, Leon defeated and captured them all. Brad and Greg were shocked by the protagonist's strength and also because they had never participated in a real battle before. After the pirates' defeat, Carla went into shock and began thinking about placing all the blame on Olivia. When they arrived at the Wayne family's island, Carla was quickly exposed. Her attempt to blame Olivia failed. Carla's father became furious with his own daughter, especially because Baron Leon was present. Leon was also irritated because Carla had promised to pay him for dealing with the pirate problem. On the way back, while talking with Luxian, Leon commented that everything had been easier than he had imagined. Simply by saying that he would interrogate the pirates, Carla confessed that she had acted under orders from the Viscount's daughter, Stephanie. Even so, the pirates' main force was still active, and Leon had also failed to obtain the protagonist's item. Before that, however, he needed to resolve Olivia's situation. While talking to her, Olivia began to cry. She said that she wanted to be friends with both of them, but now she felt that she was treated more like a pet than a person. After the discussion, Leon went to reflect alone on the ship's deck. According to Luxian, her behavior was the result of all the cruelty she had suffered at the academy. Leon, however, believed that perhaps it was better this way. After all, he had made the mistake of becoming so involved with both the game's protagonist and its wealthy antagonist. The scene then cuts to Marie and her servant running away from a monster inside a dungeon. Even while in danger, Marie remained determined to obtain the items before the protagonist and secure a brilliant future for herself. While everyone was eating, Luxian informed them that the pirates' main fleet had appeared. Brad and Greg bowed before Leon and asked for permission to take part in the battle. Leon admired that attitude and allowed the 2 of them to use the suits of armor taken from the pirates themselves. Olivia was in her room, regretting everything she had said to Leon. Suddenly, she began hearing noises and feeling tremors throughout the ship, realizing that the pirates were attacking and that Leon was fighting them. She somehow managed to give an order for the security robots to let her pass. When she reached the deck, she immediately became the target of the pirates' leader. However, Brad and Greg arrived just in time to protect her. Leon was having difficulty dealing with the battle because, instead of eliminating the enemies, he wanted to capture them alive. Seeing Brad and Greg protecting Olivia, he thought that was the way things should be. The protagonist belonged with the story's handsome love interests. He should not be by her side because he was only a supporting character. Realizing that Brad and Greg would not be able to defeat the pirates' leader, Leon finally stepped in. With a single move, he defeated the enemy and managed to recover the protagonist's necklace. After the battle, Olivia healed Brad's injuries. Then Leon commented that the 2 of them made a good couple and began calling her Miss Olivia. The girl started crying, unable to understand why. In her mind, she could only wonder why he was treating her in such a distant and formal manner, calling her Olivia instead of Livia. Leon, on the other hand, was pleased that he had managed to gather so many riches from the pirates. In addition, Luxon had also obtained documents proving Stephanie's involvement with the criminals. Back at the palace, the credit for the victory was given to Brad and Greg. Leon claimed that he had merely been a helper during the battle and even requested that the two families restore their titles and positions. Even so, Brad and Greg refused to accept that, since they knew very well that Leon had been the one who had truly defeated the pirates. Later, Leon commented to Luxon that Stephanie had been captured by the royal palace and the Retagrave family. According to him, both sides would impose a punishment far worse than anything he could have done himself. He also revealed that he intended to distance himself from Olivia and Angelica because he had already become far too close to them for someone who was supposed to be nothing more than a supporting character. Despite everything, Brad and Greg showed their honesty. They went to the palace and reported who had truly been responsible for capturing the pirates. Thanks to that, Leon was promoted to the lower 5th rank and was now already 2 ranks above his own father. In addition, he received a letter of gratitude from Clarice's family. Her father sent him an air bike as a gift and even recommended that Leon be promoted to the upper 5th rank after graduating. However, that did not please Leon in the slightest, since all he wanted was to live peacefully as an ordinary background character. Back at school, his advancement in the noble rankings attracted attention. Some girls were already planning to approach him romantically, even though they did not truly like him. Their interest was only in his new social status. Meanwhile, his friends tried to cheer him up by talking about the school execution event that was about to take place. Leon then decided to travel to the southern island in search of certain items. During the trip, Leon enjoyed everything around him, especially because that ship was extremely luxurious. He was also thinking about testing the air bike he had received from Clarice's father. Meanwhile, some girls who had once followed Angelica commented among themselves that they would abandon Duke Retagrave's family because they believed Angelica was in decline after her engagement to Prince Julius had been cancelled. They then threw a signal flare out of the ship. When they arrived on an island, Leon went to a shrine. Shortly afterward, Olivia and Miss Angelica also appeared there. A little girl then introduced the place as a famous matchmaking shrine. Angelica took out a gold coin to make a donation, while Olivia thought the amount was excessive. However, Leon surprised everyone by taking out a bag full of banknotes and beginning to pray, asking God for a beautiful, kind, friendly wife, and if she happened to be bold, even better. Angelica immediately scolded him for saying such inappropriate things in a sacred place. After that, the 3 of them received lucky charms. Leon wanted to keep all of them for himself, but he ended up sharing them with the 2 girls. Each of them received something different. Angelica received the red element blessing talisman. Olivia received the white element blessing talisman. And Leon was delighted with his own prize, a battle luck charm. The 3 of them were enjoying the moment until the little girl commented that they had probably prayed for friendship with one another. That remark made the atmosphere awkward, since at that very moment the 3 of them were facing problems in their friendship. The following day, Chris went to Leon to challenge him to a duel. However, before anything could happen, everyone was attacked by monsters controlled by the Phanos Duchy. Leon was completely confused because the duchy was only supposed to appear near the end of the game. Without wasting any time, he ordered Luxon to bring his ship immediately. Princess Hertrude led an enormous monstrous airship and declared war on the Holfort Kingdom. Soldiers from the duchy invaded the area under Garrett's command, intending to take all the students hostage. At that moment, Angelica offered to be taken in place of the others. Realizing that she was an important noble, Garrett decided to take only Angelica. Leon tried to stop him, but ended up being humiliated. Garrett even ordered his men to beat him. Olivia was also punished for trying to intervene. In the end, the protagonist ended up imprisoned. In prison, Olivia cried because she had failed to save Angelica and also had no way to get Leon out of there. A short while later, Chris appeared and informed them that a messenger from the duchy had announced that even though they had Angelica as a hostage, they would begin the attack in 1 hour. Because of that, Chris wanted Leon's help to buy time and allow the others to escape safely. Leon, however, refused to save people who had abandoned Angelica. Chris begged for his help, but Leon continued to refuse. Just as Chris was about to leave, Leon stated that he was not kind enough to help people who did nothing. If they were going to fight, then everyone would fight together. Chris still tried to argue that they needed to unite in order to survive, but no one agreed. Then Leon stepped forward once again as if he were an antagonist and began saying several harsh truths that everyone needed to hear. After that, they finally agreed to fight side by side. Leon prepared to leave and rescue Angelica, but before doing so, he asked whether they had found the people who had launched the signal flare to the duchy. Chris replied that they had, and that those responsible were already under arrest. Leon then declared that he would save Angelica and shave off that scoundrel Garrett's mustache. With that, he set off on the rescue mission. Princess Gertrude, using a magical flute, finally launched the attack with monsters. The entire class organized itself into defensive and combat formations to face the enemies. At first, they managed to hold out well. However, the duchy decided to use all of its cannons to destroy the student's ship. When they fired at full power, Olivia awakened the power of the Saintess. She raised a powerful barrier that served both as a defense and as an attack. Leon was surprised to see that Olivia possessed so much power even without the Saintess's items. That was the perfect opportunity to advance without worrying about his allies. Thus, Luxian selected the fastest route to Angelica. Garrett celebrated, believing that Leon had been devoured after entering through the mouth of the monster that served as the mothership. However, he was soon shocked when Leon appeared inside the vessel, shooting everyone around him. He seized the magical flute used to control the monsters, took the princess hostage, and even ordered Luxian to permanently shave off Garrett's mustache. Angelica was surprised to realize that Leon had used rubber bullets, leaving everyone merely unconscious. During their escape from the enemy ship, Leon used the princess as a hostage to pass through the corridors without being attacked. After capturing Princess Gertrude and keeping her as a hostage, everyone believed that they would finally be able to return home. However, Garrett announced that the princess had sacrificed herself for the duchy and immediately ordered a full-scale attack. Right afterward, Gertrude herself released the control she had over the monsters, causing all the creatures to begin pursuing her. Leon went out to try to buy time, but the number of monsters was overwhelming. Wanting to be useful in that situation, Angelica awakened her own powers and managed to support Leon. She also helped Livia, who was already exhausted from using too much magic. It was at that moment that the two of them finally made up. Suddenly, the ship was struck by a cannon. The impact nearly caused Angelica to fall off the vessel, but Olivia managed to grab her hand in time. Shortly afterward, another attack hit the ship. Olivia managed to save Angelica, but ended up falling into the void. Even in that situation, she felt relieved when she saw that Leon was going to save her once again, just as he always did. As she was falling, Olivia confessed her feelings to him. She said that she did not care about any other boy and that she only wanted to stay by his side because he was the only one she loved. Leon still did not know how to respond to her feelings, but he began calling her Livia again. The two of them returned to the ship, and shortly afterward, Leon's main vessel appeared, completely changing the course of the battle. He then decided to settle everything personally using arrogance. The rescue of the passengers began, but unfortunately, the Black Knight appeared. According to Angelica, he alone had already brought down dozens of warships from the Hullfort Kingdom. Leon became worried because he knew very well how powerful the Black Knight was in the game. Leon was having great difficulty because the Black Knight possessed far more combat experience. Even so, by working together with Luxian, he managed to immobilize the enemy and land a decisive blow. Before doing so, he rejected Luxian's suggestion to use the main ship at full power, because everything around them would be destroyed, and he would end up being seen as a threat even by the Hullfort Kingdom, and that was exactly what Leon did not want, since he still intended to live as nothing more than a supporting character. Seeing defeat right before his eyes, the mustached man activated a signal flare capable of attracting monsters even stronger than those controlled by Princess Gertrude's magic. Faced with that, Leon authorized Luxian to use only a small portion of the main ship's power. The result was the complete destruction of the creatures in a spectacle that looked like a grand fireworks festival. Leon decided not to take the lives of anyone from the duchy. Instead, he chose to seize all of the enemy's suits of armor, ships, airships, and resources. To the mustached man, that was a complete humiliation. The scene changes to Leon eating alongside Angelica and Olivia. Angelica commented on how he had allowed Chris to receive the credit for defeating the Black Knight. But thanks to that, Chris's family would be forced to accept him back. Angelica and Livia then asked what the robot standing beside Leon was, and he introduced it as his familiar, Luxian. Livia thought the little robot was cute and decided to call him Lux. Leon took the opportunity to tease Luxian, but the robot itself replied that if Leon had time to make fun of others, he should worry about himself instead. According to Luxian, the prince and his friends had decided to spend 500,000 Gias to build a new suit of armor by combining parts from their old machines, all to get a rematch against Leon. Marie became furious when she found out that they had wasted her money on that pile of junk. Leon accepted the rematch, already planning to lose on purpose. However, during the battle, Luxian warned him that that pile of metal was about to explode. Leon even tried to warn Brad that the armor was going to explode, but Brad believed it was nothing more than an attempt to deceive him. Even the referee refused to stop the fight. With no other choice, Leon used the technique Impact, destroying the armor and preventing the explosion. He even cried because he had genuinely intended to let them win that match. Some time later, much to Leon's disappointment, an official ceremony was held in which he was promoted to Viscount. In addition, he also received a medal of recognition awarded by the 5 most important families in the kingdom. Outside, Olivia commented that when she had said she loved him, she had been serious, and she hoped that one day he would give her an answer. After that, she ran over to Angelica, and together the two of them called out to Leon. The scene shifted to a battle commanded by Olivia. Even using the Saint's power, she couldn't defeat the enemies on her own until the prince and his companions arrived to help her. At that moment, it became clear that this was only one of Leon's memories from when he used to play the game while trying to complete it. In the present, Leon was far from happy after receiving the title of Viscount for ending the war against the duchy. To him, this new title meant nothing but more responsibilities and even more work. On top of that, there was another concern on his mind. He had no idea how the duchy would react after witnessing Luxian's power during the battle. Shortly afterward, his island appeared on the horizon. As soon as he arrived, Leon excitedly told his parents that he really liked the renovations made to the mansion. His brother Nix took the opportunity to mention that he had heard rumors that Olivia had gotten close to him at the academy. But Leon replied that it was none of his business. Right after that, his sister appeared, saying that she needed a room to accommodate her slave. Before Leon could answer, an even bigger problem arose. Zola arrived, calling him a delinquent and demanding that he immediately return the temple's treasure. Leon tried to pretend he didn't know what she was talking about. But one of the temple members revealed that the Sky Pirates had the sacred necklace belonging to the temple. Leon intended to give that necklace to Olivia, so he argued that, by law, whoever defeated the pirates had the right to keep their treasures. The temple member insisted that returning the necklace was the right thing to do. At that moment, Luxian informed Leon that he should give up the idea of keeping it because a fleet of the temple's cruise ships had surrounded them. With no other choice, Leon decided to return the necklace. The temple member confirmed that it was indeed the genuine sacred necklace. After that, Leon told them to leave and even asked whether she also intended to ask him for a donation to the temple. The woman replied that he was just as rude as the saint had warned. Leon was confused, not understanding the reason for that comparison. She then explained that the saint had arrived at the temple wearing the sacred bracelet, an item that, just like the necklace, served as proof that someone was a saint. When the woman revealed that the saint's name was Marie Fu Laffen, Leon was completely shocked. He couldn't believe that he had forgotten about that girl. The scene shifted to Marie, who was extremely satisfied that she had finally taken the heroine's place as the saint. All the effort she had put into learning healing magic had been worth it. She remembered being reincarnated into a miserable family with no love and no money, nobles in name only. Her previous life had also been difficult. Because of that, in this new life, she was determined to do whatever it took to achieve happiness. Shortly afterward, the prince and his friends arrived. Julius commented that they were thinking about building a statue to celebrate her ascension as the saint and that its construction would cost 500,000 gias. Marie didn't like the idea at all. She asked if they never learned from their own mistakes and questioned whether Julius really understood the situation they were in. After suffering at Leon's hands, he had lost his position as crown prince, and the others had also been disowned. Even so, Julius claimed that wasn't enough to change the love they felt for her. However, in Marie's thoughts, the only thing that mattered was that she had no need for poor and clueless nobles. Meanwhile, at the academy, the students criticized Stephanie, calling her a bootlicker and a traitor. The girl wondered what she should have done. Her father was only a baronet, and she had no power to stand against a count's family. At that moment, Marie appeared, proposing that the two of them become friends, and Stephanie accepted. In Marie's thoughts, the plan was to use the girls Leon had defeated to serve her, and then make him regret everything. As Leon walked through the academy, he heard several girls calling him an opportunistic viscount. However, his mind was occupied with another matter. Just like him, Marie had also been reincarnated into that world. In the autumn game, Olivia became the saint and defeated the final boss alongside her love interests. But Leon knew that the real factor needed to defeat the final enemy wasn't simply the title of saint, but Olivia's own power. If another war against the duchy began and the final boss appeared, there was a possibility that the game would end without Olivia fulfilling her role. That meant the chance of that world being destroyed was not zero. When he arrived at his room, Leon noticed several letters attached to his door. He started opening them and found the student's shameless change in attitude quite astonishing. Showing no interest, he simply burned some of them. Lakshan asked whether he wasn't planning to invite anyone, but Leon replied that he had no interest in women who were attracted only to status and wealth. Lakshan commented that Olivia and Angelica were probably different and said it was about time for Leon to make his feelings for them clear. Leon replied that he already knew that. The scene then shifted to Garrett and Vandal, who reported that Princess Gertrude and the magic flute had been taken away. Back at the academy, Olivia told Leon that she had spent her winter vacation at Angelica's house and that the two of them had a wonderful time together. Olivia commented that he looked tired. Leon explained that he had received an enormous number of invitations and that rejecting all of them hadn't been easy at all. To Olivia, that was only natural since Leon was now seen as a hero. Leon changed the subject and said that she was the one who had been incredible. Olivia replied that she didn't even know how she had managed to do that. Then she asked whether he wasn't interested in any woman. Leon replied that he wasn't, making it clear that he only needed her and Angelica at his tea parties. Olivia was happy with his answer, but her expression changed when she remembered that he had also invited Miss Clarice and Miss Derder. Realizing the situation, Leon quickly changed the subject and said they had better hurry so they wouldn't be late for class. Daniel and Raymond were looking at a bulletin board when Leon approached them, curious about what had caught their attention. They explained that the board was for recruiting personal guards for the saint. In addition to the temple, the royal palace itself was taking part in the selection. Since Julius had been right to support Marie, everything indicated that he would return to his position as crown prince, while Marie would assume the role of crown princess. Upon hearing that, Leon began wondering what Marie's true intentions were. At that moment, Angelica appeared with unexpected news. She informed Leon that he had been chosen to join the Saint's Guard. The revelation left him completely confused since he had no idea why that decision had been made. The scene shifted to a meeting room where a council was discussing important matters. After analyzing the situation, they all decided to appoint Leon as the captain of the Saint's Guard. Clarice's father took the opportunity to ask Vince whether it was really appropriate to put Leon in that position. Vince replied that the Redgrave family's influence was no longer as great as it had once been, and that, because of the position he held, he did not have the authority to overturn a decision made by Minister Bernard. Clarice's father explained that he wanted to help Leon because he felt that he still owed him a debt of gratitude for everything he had done for his daughter. Marquis Frampton commented that Leon's combat ability was extraordinary and could not be ignored. Precisely because of that, He believed it would be better to send him on that expedition to find out whether he was hiding any dangerous ambitions. According to the Marquis, if the prisoner were sent along to remain under surveillance, they would be able to solve two problems at the same time. The other participants in the meeting agreed with the proposal, stating that Leon could become a threat to the palace. Before he decided to join the temple in an attempt to seize power, they needed to recover the lost item. Angelica's father argued that this plan went against national policy. However, Frampton countered by saying that Vince's daughter was very close to Leon and asked whether Vince intended to keep the lost item for himself. Vince dismissed the accusation, stating that it was completely absurd. With no one else raising any objections, Frampton concluded that Leon should depart immediately alongside the saint in search of the treasures. Since Marie needed to gather funds, they would take the opportunity to fulfill her wish. The scene shifted directly to Leon, who was already aboard a ship alongside Marie. When he noticed Carla's presence, he began wondering why she was there as well. Luxian commented that it was probably just another way to provoke him. Next, Luxian asked why there was any need to bring the partner on that mission. Leon explained that it had been a direct order from the palace. In his opinion, the authorities were probably concerned because of the enormous combat power he had demonstrated. Shortly afterward, Angelica and Olivia ran over to Leon, saying that they would be the first to find the treasures. Leon replied that the partner had a huge bathtub and suggested that the two of them take the opportunity to relax while the journey wasn't over yet. At that moment, Jilk and Greg also appeared. Leon made it clear that they could do whatever they wanted inside the ship, but warned that using the bathtub was completely forbidden for the two of them. While observing everyone around him, Leon couldn't understand what the palace had in mind by sending Princess Gertrude to accompany them. Marie, who still didn't know the young woman, asked who she was. Greg explained that, at that moment, Gertrude was being introduced merely as a foreign student. Angelica explained that Gertrude needed to remain under surveillance since the matter involved issues related to national security. Gertrude replied that if Angelica was dissatisfied, she should complain directly to the palace. Even so, she believed it would be difficult for anyone to pay attention to requests from the declining Redgrave family. Since the magic flute remained safely stored in the capital, Leon believed that as long as that item stayed under control, the final boss would not appear. Right after that conversation, the girls decided to enjoy the ship's enormous bathtub and have fun during the journey. Some time later, they finally caught sight of the floating island that was the destination of the mission. As soon as she saw the place, Marie asked them to land immediately because she didn't want to waste even a single minute before recovering the treasures. Gertrude looked at Marie and questioned whether she could really be considered a saint since she showed such an obsession with money. Marie was not shaken by the provocation and thought that Gertrude would never understand that feeling because she was a princess. In her view, someone who had always been wealthy would never know how difficult it was to live without money. Watching the argument, Leon thought that Marie reminded him a lot of his sister from his previous life. Leon was also certain that there was a lost item hidden within the ruins on that island. At that moment, the elf accompanying Marie informed them that he would show them the best place to land since the entire island was covered by a dense forest. Leon became curious and asked how he knew the place so well. The young elf replied that the island was actually his homeland. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Marquis Frampton was talking to a woman. He commented that the Saints group was probably already very close to their destination and expressed hope that they would be able to recover what they had been searching for. And with that, we reached the end of the first episode of the second season of the anime Trapped in a Dating Sim. The world of Otome games is tough for mobs. If you want the next episodes, leave a comment below. See you next time.